what could either of these platforms use to eke out ahead of the other one? The easy answer is here, don't get hacked and have all of your customers' data get exposed. With Foot Locker's just relationships with these manufacturers, could you go and get some premium products? So StockX and Goat, if you're not familiar with them, there's this massive secondhand marketplace that's been created over the past number of years, basically fueled by the phenomenon that you actually still have a lot of consolidation on the manufacturing side of things, right? There's Nike, there's Adidas, and then they have their own separate brands, and there's a few other sneaker manufacturers. Now the designer like Balenciagas and I don't know, all the, and Dior, all the French luxury design brands are getting into it, but I don't know, it's maybe 10 brand manufacturers making sneakers. It's still super consolidated. Marketplaces don't thrive in consolidated environments. We've seen that time and time again. But the interesting thing is the fragmentation is coming because they have these very limited release products, right? Starting with sneakers and now moving into watches, which we'll get to. Limited release products. And then people, if you can buy them at retail, you can make money flipping them on the secondhand market, just because there's so much demand.
A lot of collectors and people out there that want the latest edition of Jordans or past editions that are still in good condition. There's a huge market of kind of sneakerhead culture and collecting happening out there, in addition to kind of the traditional, I want to buy sneakers to wear them.
Yep. So what's interesting is, Foot Locker put $100 million here this is in February of this year into Goat. I think it was a great decision by Dick Johnson, CEO of Foot Locker, to get into this space. Kind of surprised and saddened that other sneaker and shoe retailers have not done something similar. There's multiple players in the space beyond just Goat and StockX. They both, Goat and StockX, claim that they have $1 billion GMV run rate. I don't think they have $1 billion historical GMV, but future looking, they did at least $250 million in GMV in the most recent quarter, and then they extrapolate that out into the future. Great. Good for them. I think the question is, if you have two warring platforms of pretty good size, both with a similar amount of funding, how can you overcome the chicken and egg problem? And what could either of these platforms use to eke out ahead of the other one? Now, the one thing is that I'll start off with is the easy answer is here, don't get hacked and have all of your customers' data get exposed to the black market of people buying your information, which is what just happened to StockX 3 days ago. The unfortunate thing with the way StockX handled this is they didn't proactively get in front of this and tell their customers. This was actually leaked to the media, or the media found out, published this article, and now StockX is saying, oh yeah, that happened.
Not a good look.
But what StockX was doing was prompting its users to change their information without telling them,
why?
Oh, we think we were breached and all of our stuff was just laid waste to. So don't do that. That's not going to help you in the war. But we've talked a lot about the 7 strategies for solving the chicken and egg problem. And basically there's monetary subsidies, there's product subsidies, and then there's kind of psychedelic subsidies.
Psychological,
sorry. It's it's only Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Those two, but they're more frowned upon.
Yeah, not in the US. So the two to me that stick out, and I know the Goat has alluded that they're going to do some of this, is infrastructure. So if I buy stuff on StockX or Goat, it can take me 2-3 weeks sometimes to actually get the sneaker.
Right.
So the fulfillment, the logistics, we've talked about how Amazon, this is the killer app for Amazon to give 2-day, now 1-day shipping. So a big thing of investing in the infrastructure, getting the third-party sellers to store those sneakers in my warehouse. I'll still let you fulfill your sneaker sale on the competitive platform. If I'm Goat, I'll still let you fulfill it on StockX. But now the inventory is in my warehouse, right, and I can charge you rent and fees to do that. And now I just have better logistics. I can fulfill faster and all these kinds of things. So I know they're trying to do that, but I think that's definitely an area that you could differentiate.
That's something where the investment from Foot Locker might help GOAT going after something like that, because they have all these physical retail footprints. And if you could start to integrate that into that delivery experience, that might help.
Exactly. I think the other strategy here would be acting as a producer, where with Foot Locker's just relationships with these manufacturers, could you go and get some premium products,
right, some exclusives?
We saw StockX do a deal, which was started by Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs and Quicken Loans and a bunch of stuff. Do a limited release with like LeBron sneakers a couple of years ago on StockX. Could you now basically do that same strategy, act as a producer, but just do that much better and bigger now that you have Foot Locker helping you and juicing those channels and those relationships? I think that could work. As a user of both of these platforms, I would say I probably give. I think GOAT is slightly behind, to be honest. And I think, for example, if I go to StockX app, they actually give me much more transparency on the transaction history.
Right.
So I can very easily see what are all the sales for this shoe, and it just looks, just by looking at that data, like a much more vibrant community and ecosystem. And therefore, if I'm a consumer, that means I should get a lower price.
I think for them, it's in the name StockX. They viewed it as basically creating a stock market for shoes and other kind of eventually luxury items, now like watches. Yep. So for them, that kind of price and transaction history and transparency is very much part of the value prop. Exactly.
So I can still view that data on GOAT, but I have to look at every specific size of shoe to see the sales, which you never know. Maybe GOAT actually has the same amount of volume, but I just can't view it in aggregate across all the sizes. And then it just looks smaller to me on GOAT. But I just feel like, why are they hiding that? It feels like they're hiding the information. Maybe they are or aren't doing it deliberately, but you kind of get the feeling that maybe they're hiding this because they don't have as much volume, which means I'm not getting as good of a price. And it's less of this kind of, I feel like there's less transparency, which is more of a product critique than a platform business model critique. But I feel like that product critique is fueled by maybe some lackings in liquidity and not having as much supply that maybe StockX has. So, maybe they can solve it with acting as a producer and some of these monetary subsidies, basically a monetary subsidy to help fuel the infrastructure and logistics and fulfillment capabilities of the marketplace. We'll see. Hi, this is Alex Mozed. Thanks for joining us on Winner Take All. If you enjoyed the content today, which I bet you did, please comment, subscribe, and definitely message me on Twitter when we're doing live streams. Also, please note, all opinions expressed about stocks or public companies on the show are exactly that, opinions. This is not investment advice. Don't act on it. WisdomTree licensed Applico's Platform Insights data product to aid in the creation of the PLAT ETF. Thanks for joining us.